Hello everyone, Daniel here. It's been a very long time since my last videos, so really sorry about that. If those of you subscribed are waiting for more, sorry, I've just been really busy. I've got some more videos for you now. The first one, this one, is going to be showing you some of the new features since the last videos. There's been quite a few changes, but I wanted to go through those. And in the next video, I will show you some of the more advanced features and how to set them up. But for now, let's go through some of the new features. Okay, so what's new with Soundbox? Well, quite a lot as it happens. If I just have the list of changes since the version I was running in the last video, you'll see there's loads. There's no way I've got time to go through each one of those. You'd get bored for a start and this video would be far too long. So what I thought I'd do is go through some of the more significant changes. First one I wanted to show you is song lyrics. This is quite a big one. If I open Soundbox, you can see it's set to display media on this screen as well. That's why that image has appeared behind. Now, if you can see here, I've got options, lyrics. The way you can get that to appear is in options and settings. And there's a whole section now, song lyrics. And in there, show checkboxes on music page. This isn't on by default, so when you open Soundbox and you don't have those options for lyrics, that's why. You need to go to the settings, turn it on here, and then you need to restart Soundbox in case you're thinking it's broken. A lot of the changes in here, you need to close and open Soundbox again for the setting to take effect. Anyway, so I've turned it on, and as you can see in here, the lyrics option is there. So if I go to one of the new songs, because that's really what this is for, and type in that, a lot of people either forget to bring the printed sheet with the lyrics on, or some others have to rely on others to do it for them, and if they forget, there's going to be some in the audience that don't have their lyrics sheet. So this way you can have it displayed on the main screen or screens. So if I turn on the option for lyrics, and just an aside, the lyrics is displayed on the same display as media. So whatever you've got this set at, the lyrics will display there as well. So let's go back to here and start playing this song. And as you watch, if I move this out of the way, the lyrics appear. And as you can see, they're not all there. It fades away slightly here, but if you watch, as the song progresses, the lyrics will scroll up. There you go. So the song, the line we're singing is roughly in the middle of the screen. It's not always exactly, but it's very accurate speed. So it's scrolling up at about the speed we need to sing, which is, I think, is a great feature. So stop that song. There is an option to have the lyrics displayed all the time, but I wouldn't recommend that because a lot of the songs we know the lyrics for anyway, so we don't need it. So that's that. The next option I wanted to show you, if I turn off this display, is the image slideshow feature. This way you can have images all ready to play. This can be useful for if a brother's giving a talk and he wants to show things in his talk, whatever the talk happens to be. So you get the photos ready, or the images ready, and put them in a folder, as I've done here. This is actually some of the images from a watchtower that's coming up. And then the name you give it will be the name of the slideshow, but that doesn't matter to the images that is shown, but it's just for your sakes. And then you go to images and audio in media and drag that folder in, which I've already done. And you can see it says here number of images 3. So if I now turn on the media display, click in examples and click show, it will show the first image in the folder. And I can now use these back and forward buttons to present the slideshow. Now that's great. There's also this button here, which is like a play button, if you will. If I press that, it will play the images automatically after a set number of time. It's set at the moment to be 8 seconds. That's the default amount of time. There you go, it changes. But you can change that. You can also change how it displays each image, whether it fades or not. There you go, that's great. There is also a way to just control this from another device, which I'll go into later. So if I hide that and turn this off again. Another feature that's changed slightly is to do with the timer. If I go to the timer section and tell it to display on this screen behind the program, when I start the timer, well, to start with, the screen is blank. When I start the timer, it displays, you're aware of this, it displays the bar going down at the top, the time going down here, and a traffic light system. So that's green, you're fine. The yellow or amber is you're 30 seconds to the end, and red means you're overtime. Okay, everyone knows that, that's fine. But now there is an option. If we go to options and go to the timer section, which is all the way down here, there's first of all display time and day on timer display. That's been there for a little while, but that's quite useful. It means the timer display could replace your clock on the back wall. And also this display next song number is a useful feature for someone to just have a quick look. In fact, as I'm doing this, these are one of the settings that takes effect without you having to restart the program, which is good. But if I go down to here, look, it says lower panel display. That's during the timing. So not now, nothing will happen now, but you can see it's set to be traffic lights. Well, now you're able to change it to empty, so it doesn't display the traffic lights at all, or the time of day, which is quite useful. And if you're very strict on when the meeting starts, some brothers like to have a time when they get off. I know our hall, the list of talks is given to the brothers, and it says you need to get off at this time. That relies on the meeting starting dead on time, but some people prefer to look at that. So if I put it to time of day, and I'll close and open Soundbox again because not all the options are taking effect. So now you can see, if you wait a second, now you've got the timer screen will display the time and the next song. That's useful for both the brothers to have a look at, and also for the chairman. He can just look up to make sure he's saying the right song. But now if I start a timer, you'll see instead of the traffic light system, you've got a clock at the bottom, which some people might prefer. So that's a useful feature, I thought. Another feature I wanted to talk about was to do with Dropbox. As you're probably aware, Soundbox has supported uploading recordings to Dropbox for a while now, but it's now got more options. If we go to options in general, you'll see there's the option to use Dropbox. The configure Dropbox is how to configure the account. But in settings now, there's a small section to do with Dropbox. If I scroll up, here we go. And there are three more options here. One of them, the main one really, well, these two, delay Dropbox uploads. That way we'll only upload the recordings of the meeting when the meeting has finished, so it won't affect the internet connection while the meeting is on, which could be important. The other option, file lifetime, is how long the recordings stay on Dropbox. This is very important because a lot of congregations use the free Dropbox account, which is only 2 GB. Now that's plenty for quite a few weeks worth of recordings, but it's obviously not unlimited. So having the 3 weeks option is ideal. You can change that to 1, 2, 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's 6 months, a year or indefinitely. The last 2 will only be available to you if you've got the premium Dropbox account. 6 months is also a bit touch and go depending on what setting you've got for the recordings. But that's a great feature. You don't have to worry about the space being filled up. After 3 weeks, the old recordings get deleted, which is great. Related to that, there's also a new feature in the audio section to do with recordings, and it's here. Delete old meeting recordings. as time goes on, even if you've got a big hard drive on the computer you're using, the recordings will fill that hard drive. Never mind whether they get uploaded to Dropbox, they stay on this computer. So there's an option now to delete the old ones. Now obviously you don't want that to be weeks, you want it to be a bit longer than that. So as you can see here, they get deleted after 6 months, which I think is plenty. You never need to go back more than that. So that's a great new feature. To do with that as well, connected to that is in Media, there's an option to delete old media calendar items as well. Again, you don't need them cluttering up the hard drive after the meeting's finished. This time it's down to 1 month because you never need to go back in time, do you? So again, a great feature to stop the hard drive getting full. Another new feature since last time is, you may have noticed actually when I was playing the song earlier, if I go to music and play that song again, see here, there is a marker on the music button to show that music is being played, or that something's happening in that tab. You can still go to other tabs, as you're probably aware. So if I go to record and start recording, it will be recording my voice at the moment. There's now a marker on the record to show you that's active. Record is a bit different because it shows you down here when it's recording, but it's still useful. If I go to timer, tell the timer to be this screen and start the timer, you'll now see the timer marker is active as well. Just useful, so you know what's happening. So if I stop that timer and stop the music, we don't need this musical accompaniment. What it can be useful for is if you're displaying a video on the screen but you've turned the screen off. So if I do this, I'll turn it off for the timer first. If I go to this and have it so it displays media on this screen, and I play the presentation for this week, the marker actually applies to this. As you can see, it puts a tick on the file that's being played, so you know which file's being played, which is handy.
A figure of speech.
But if you come away from this and go to close it, it won't let you because media is being presented. So if you've turned the projector off and you're wondering why, you know that it's actually still playing a media file, which is great. Let's go back to media and stop that.
The first one in Daniel chapter.
The rest of the changes are a little bit more background changes, if you will. If I stop everything and turn this off, there's now an option. If you've been fiddling with the settings a bit too much and you've got yourself a bit lost, there is an option to reset them to default. To do that, it's the same way as you change the language options, which you'll see in one of my videos coming up. But if you go into the Soundbox shortcut, go to the end and type dash or hyphen reset and click OK. You need provide yes, continue. Now if I open Soundbox, it's gone back to default. The lyrics buttons aren't there, the target displays are all none, and everything's back to the way it is. Just remember when you've done that to remove it from the Soundbox icon again, because even if I make changes now, if it's still on that shortcut, it'll be reset every time I open Soundbox. So that's worth remembering, but that's a useful feature if you've got yourself a bit tied in knots. Another change, which again is slightly minor but it's very useful, if I go to Media Calendar, this scroll bar here has become thicker. Everything in fact has become a bit more touch friendly. There's a lot of congregations that use touchscreens, so you don't want two fiddly little icons to press, so that's a handy feature. Another change is to do with the WT Image Disco program that you may be using to get the images from watchtowers coming up from the feed. If you don't use it and you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, but basically there was a problem with the way they've changed some of the EPUB files, especially the September one, and it didn't work, but that's now been fixed, so you can go back to using it again to get the images, which is great. Another little minor error that had come up If I go to the JW website, there you go, and scroll down, the link for making a donation, if I click that, it opens, as you can see, a new tab. Now Soundbox, when you were displaying a website, didn't like that. It didn't work because it would open Internet Explorer outside of Soundbox, and of course that wouldn't get displayed. So that's now been fixed. So if I close this and go to Media and go to Websites, turn off Media Calendar and make this display the target. If I go to the JW.org website and launch it, as you can see, it displays on here. And when I click the Make a Donation, it copes with that, which is great. So close that. Lastly, this is potentially a big change, and that is if you go to Options and Settings, there is now all these options for the API. The API has been there for ages. It can be used for displaying the timer, which is the clock timer server, but it's still part of the same thing, and also controlling the timer, which was the only function it had up to now. But now Anthony has added a media API and a songs API so that the media can be controlled from another device. Again, great for taking away some of the pressure from the sound desk operator. You could give the controlling of the media to someone else, so delegate it to someone else. That way is less for him to think about. But also it can be used for displaying Slideshow that I showed you earlier. There is an app. If I close Soundbox, there is an app on the Windows Store. I go to my library. As you can see, Soundbox Remote. Anthony has made a very simple image slideshow app which connects via that API, which is great for controlling the slideshow. So if a brother has got images in his talk, he can control it himself if he takes a phone or a tablet with him. That way, again, he's in control of when the image is displayed instead of having to rely on the brother and the sound desk, which is great. And this is just a proof of concept, but it works really well actually. And that's it. That's the main changes that I wanted to show you. As I said, there are more. Feel free to look through them on the Soundbox website. Okay, bye for now.